The yellow paper felt brittle in my hands. Homefront, spies, skinny dipping. I didn't know Ned or Jinx, but the words in the letter thrilled me. Their lives seemed full of adventure and mystery. A girl's voice jolted me from my thoughts. "Abilene, yoo-hoo! Abilene, you up there?" someone called. "Shady said we'd find you in that tree house, but from the looks of it, you're likely to fall out at any minute." I peeked out at the tree house and then pulled my head back real quick. It was Letty and Ruth Ann. I had wanted them to come. I should have been glad they did. But I was still filled with disappointment about the letters not belonging to Gideon, and curiosity about Ned and Jinx and the spy known as the Rattler. "I can't work on that assignment just now," I hollered back without looking out. "Assignment? It's the last day of school, for crying out loud," Letty called. "The assignment can wait. After all, everyone's on vacation." "That's right. We just saw Sister Redempta wearing her wading habit down at the river," Ruth Ann yelled. I poked my head out. "You did?" "No, but I bet that'd get you down from that treehouse in a hurry," Letty laughed. I pulled my head back in, feeling a little foolish. Even if Sister Redempta had a wading habit, there probably was no water in the riverbed. "I'm busy right now." "Okay, I guess we'll come up. You first, Loretta?" "After you, Ruth Ann." I was sure they were just teasing me again until I heard the creak and pull of the rope ladder. I tried to fold the map before they pulled themselves up. They were fast climbers. "What you doing up here?" Ruth Ann poked her head up first and scrambled onto the platform. I slipped the map and keepsakes back into the Lucky Bill box. "Nothing much. What are y'all doing up here?" "I don't really need help with that assignment. Nope, I'll be long gone before Sister Redempta can lasso me with that rope around her waist. Besides, y'all probably have better things to do, like run off to the dime store or something." I didn't know why I was being so snippy. I guess it was because Gideon had taught me not to be anybody's charity case. "Well, as a matter of fact, that's just where we came from," Letty said, reaching up for Ruth Ann's hand. With her short, curly hair, she looked like the salt girl on the crates, and she carried a red bandana knapsack on her back. "We brought you something." She opened the pack and pulled out 3 lovely sandwiches wrapped in wax paper, 3 apples, and oh my goodness, 3 ice-cold Coca-Colas. At the same time, Ruth Ann saw me clutching the letters. "What are you hiding?" She snatched them out of my hands. "Give me back," I said. "Are these your letters from your boyfriend?" My pride welled up like a blister ready to pop. I grabbed the letters. "I know why you're here. Y'all are the ones hoping to get noticed by the teacher or your parents for doing a good deed to the new girl." "Well, I don't need no corpus works of mercy," I said, slipping into my new girl in town way of talking. "So y'all can just find someone else to get your extra credit from this summer." Seeing the looks on their faces, I almost busted out crying to be so mean. They looked at each other as if silently agreeing on which one to speak to me. "That's just fine," it was Ruth Ann. "But I'd like to point out that they're corporal works of mercy, you know, doing things like clothe the naked and feed the hungry, and we weren't doing them in the first place. But I think even Sister Redempta would agree there isn't one among them that says anything about sitting in a tree house with the pig-headed. Isn't that right, Letty?" "That's right." Letty was quietly putting the food and drinks back into the bandana. "Nor one about running all over town collecting empty pop bottles for trading in to bring Coca-Colas to the ungrateful. We came up here to pay a visit and get acquainted, but it looks like you got your own self to keep you company. Or what y'all self, or whatever it is you keep saying. Now come on, Letty, let's go." They both stood. I wasn't sure what to say, but knew it had better be something good and quick. "You mean y'all don't say y'all?" They paused, and then Ruth Ann answered, sounding kind of disgusted. "No, we don't say y'all. That's 2 words. You all. You might as well get that straight right now." I cleared some of the dust off the floor with my foot. "Anything else I need to know? For while I'm here, that is?" Letty and Ruth Ann looked at each other again, probably deciding if they could tolerate me another minute. They must have figured they could because they sat back down and opened their parcel of sandwiches. Well, Letty said while Ruth Ann popped the bottle tops off with the hammer claw, there's a river when it's in Arkansas, and you can say it like that, the Arkansas River, but once it hits Kansas, it's called the Arkansas River, and that's kind of important. And there's a woman up the way who sits on her porch and stares, but don't let her look you in the eye or she'll turn you to stone, Letty said, as if that was on the same level of importance of knowing how to pronounce Arkansas. And you might want to work on your grammar, Ruth Ann added with a mouthful of egg sandwich. It doesn't bother us any. Fact is, during the summer, we all kind of talk however we want. But come fall, Sister Redempta's kind of picky when it comes to don't need knows and might couldas. And as for that lasso around her waist, it's not a lasso. It's a rosary, and it's for praying on. I could tell it would take a while to learn the lay of the land, but that was okay. These girls were real friendly, and the Coca-Cola was going down good, and come fall I'd be long gone, I told myself, pushing aside the wobbly feeling I'd been having on and off. I opened the cigar box. You ever seen a spy map, I asked. Main Street, Manifest, May 28, 1936. An honest-to-goodness spy, cried Letty as the three of us crouched behind the wooden Indian in front of the hardware store. Right here in Manifest. Why, I've never heard anything so exciting. I kept the mementos hidden away in the cigar box, but showed them the first letter in the spy map. It might have been a little selfish of me, but I wanted to read the other letters by myself before letting Letty and Ruth Ann see them. Maybe there would be some mention of Gideon in those. The Rattler. That sounds as mysterious as the Shadow. Letty took on the deep, dramatic voice everyone knew from the Sunday night radio broadcast. Who knows what evil lurks in the hearts of men? The Shadow knows. Ruth Ann rolled her eyes. In fact, Letty continued, it's just like that episode a few months ago. A lady, she gets mysterious letters from her dead husband. Well, they're not letters, really. They're more like notes because they don't come in the mail. They're just left under her pillow. And right before she goes insane, not now, Letty, Ruth Ann said. The Rattler, whoever it was, could still be here, spying on us at this very minute. After all this time, the letter was written. Letty did the calculating in her hand. 18 years ago. And I don't see how this map is going to help us. She looked over the paper. It's just a map of Manifest, or at least Manifest as it was back in 1918. See here, that Manipulopus meat closed down forever ago. The cousins' debate continued, Ruth Ann said. So maybe it's a map of likely suspects and places the spy might frequent. Maybe he's dead by now. The Manipulopoulos place is on there, and Mr. Manipulopoulos is dead. Maybe you shouldn't be such a stick in the mud. Come on, let's go scout around. As we all got up, I figured Ruth Ann had won, and from Letty skipping along beside us, I gathered she didn't mind. We looked up and down Main Street, taking in store owners and passers-by. There was the butcher, hanging up a big hunk of meat to cure outside his store. He pulled the fleshy meat hook and wiped it on his already bloody apron. The iceman wiped his spiky tongs into a block of ice and hoisted it out of his truck. The barber shook out his apron and wiped his razor blade clean. Thinking of spies and people going insane made everybody seem a little frightening. They were like nameless men in scary nursery rhymes. The butcher, the iceman, and the barber, until Letty identified them as Mr. Simon, Mr. Pinkleton, and Mr. Cooper. We made our way into and out of a few stores, asking if anyone had heard of the Rattler. No one seemed inclined to shed any light on the matter. The Rattler could be any one of them, Letty breathed. But I still say the Rattler could be dead and buried by now. Or maybe not, Ruth Ann said with authority. Look, it was the undertaker, all dressed in black, hauling a slab of granite into the Better Days funeral parlor. Maybe it's Mr. Underhill, Ruth Ann whispered. He's always itching to carve somebody a grave marker. Maybe he even killed a few bodies himself. The letter didn't say anything about murder. We're just looking for a spy. Right, Abilene? Letty asked. Yes, but what? Ruth Ann asked. We'll say there was a spy. What do you think he was spying on? Letty and I looked at Ruth Ann. She rolled her eyes and gave a sigh like she was disgusted to have to explain something so simple. I figured she was just stalling till she could think up an answer. "There was a war going on, you know," Ruth Ann said. We kept staring. "And in war times there's always secrets that need keeping from the enemy." Still staring. "So what makes you think Manifest didn't have a few secrets of its own, and that some spy might want to find out about it?" Ruth Ann asked. Since Letty and I couldn't come up with a better explanation, we shrugged and turned our eyes back to Mr. Underhill, who'd come outside. He wiped the sweat off his forehead and looked up at the cloudless sky. "Look at him," Ruth Ann said. "He's sniffing for death in the air." A breeze picked up, and when Mr. Underhill crossed the street, walking in our direction, I thought for sure he'd pluck one of us for that new grave marker. We backed into an alley and watched as he passed by. He hunched forward and his arms didn't move as he walked. They just hung stiff by his side. "Come on," Ruth Ann whispered. We all three took off after Mr. Underhill. He headed to the edge of town and skirted around the trees near Shetty's place. Letty stepped on a twig, snapping it in two, and Mr. Underhill turned around. We stayed still in the darkness of a tree until he moved on. "Where's he going?" I asked. "Where else would an undertaker go?" Ruth Ann pointed ahead to the wrought iron fence that surrounded hundreds or maybe 50 or so graves. "Come on, there's an opening on the other side." This was one of the universals I had avoided so far. In other places I'd seen kids who followed their leader like blind mice right into the carving hands of the farmer's wife. Being an outsider, I didn't usually fall under the leader's spell, but I'd never been on a spy hunt before. So here I was, tracing after Ruth Ann, enjoying the excited, scary feeling that made my spine shiver. Ruth Ann went first, squeezing through the fence where there was a missing iron rod. Then Letty, then me. "Over here," Ruth Ann said, crouching behind a tall tombstone. We followed, then waited, and peeked. Mr. Underhill plodded over to a grassy spot between two graves and stretched his arms between the markers. His fingertips barely brushed the stones on both sides. I'll be hung if he didn't lie flat on his back then, like he was ready to die himself. From our hiding spot, we could only see his knees poking up as his long legs butted up against another grave marker in front. He lay there, seeming a little too comfortable. Then he got up and made some notes on a pad of paper, and arms hanging down again, walked out of the cemetery. We waited for the gate to quit squeaking before we gave up our hiding spot. "He's measuring for somebody's grave," Letty said. Ruth Ann looked over the grassy space Mr. Underhill had recently occupied. The way his legs were bunched up looks like there's not enough room for a full-grown adult." She stretched out her arms, measuring length, as the undertaker had done. Then with one hand about the same height in the air, she turned real slow. "In fact, I'd say there's probably just enough room for someone about the size of one Soletta Taylor." She placed her hand on Letty's head. "You stop that right now, Ruth Ann McIntyre, or I'll tell your mother that you used her colander for catching tadpoles." Ruth Ann laughed. "Oh, don't get your knickers in a knot." "Let's go home, Ruth Ann," Letty said. "I'm thirsty and Mama will be awful upset if she finds out I was clear in the woods. It must be near midnight." "For heaven's sakes, Letty, it's barely dark." "Still," Letty whined just a little. "Oh, you're probably right. Supper will be waiting at my house too," said Ruth Ann. I hated to see them go. "Maybe we can find a creek to fill up our pop bottles," I suggested. "There's nothing more than a trickle within 100 miles of here. Everyone knows that," said Ruth Ann, kicking up dust as we walked. "My daddy said he heard the drought hadn't taken hold here like it had in other parts." "Bad enough," she answered, stuffing a wad of grass in her lip like tobacco as we made our way back to Shetty's place.